South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Get ready to laugh with Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Join Frank and his team of featured guests for your daily dose of comedy.
Reno, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Sports.
F for Falcons, Alex. We were talking Derek Carr for MVP after 2 games.
Who's we?
Okay, me.
You.
I was.
And the funniest social media posts.
People want to show off their food. Boom. Wiener on a guy's shoulder. It's our Colts. We bleed blue.
It's your one-stop spot for great laughs and a good time. Find us on YouTube at Punchlines FN. And join the chat live weekdays at noon Pacific for the ultimate blend of jokes, sports, and viral fun.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome in. Happy New Year. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Jeff Parles, Alex White. It is Sports by the Book here on a Wednesday morning. First time in 2025.
It's nice to have you in on a Wednesday as well.
I don't even know what day it is anymore, even though I just said it's Wednesday at this rate. We have a lot to get to today as we are, of course, it's quarterfinal day.
Yes, it is.
3 of the 4 quarterfinals in the college football playoff get rolling in about an hour from now in Atlanta, Georgia, as Texas will take on Arizona State. But before we get to that, last night, real quick, Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl took on Boise State in the first quarterfinal, final game of the 2024 calendar year. Boise State, they proved they deserved to be in this field at a bare minimum last night. And you saw in that game last night, more than anything, that look, the competition for that offensive line was not the same as seeing this Penn State defense. And even without Abdul Carter for the whole second half, Boise State struggled to block that front, especially run blocking wise. Pass blocking wise, they did okay, even though really the key play of the whole game was Maddox Madsen threw a touchdown that would have made it a 1-score game in the third quarter. Legal hands to the face. It was the correct call. Push Boise back. They end up getting no points because Madsen ends up throwing a pick later in the drive. And it all amounts to Penn State a 31-14 win with a total of 55 going under the total by 10 points last night.
Maxon, you got to give him a lot of credit. I mean, he was very poised. He was in the moment. They definitely struggled. They definitely needed Genty, and they needed to get that run game going. But looking at the total yards in the game, I mean, it is impressive. You said it. Boise definitely proved that they did deserve to be there. What do you make of this Penn State team moving forward? Because, I mean, both of these 2 wins is kind of what we expect from Penn State and James Franklin, right? Right in that range, 10-point favorite. They take care of business.
Yeah, Franklin, again, dominates as a double-digit favorite, always has, did it again here. It's so bizarre. Penn State has played 15 football games this year now with the game last night. I still don't know how good they truly are. It's astounding. It truly is astounding that you could play this many, especially in the college ranks where in the past it was you're maxing at 12, even when you include the bowl game. And now, I mean, Penn State, if they make the national championship game, will have played 17 games this year. But, you know, they're clearly one of the 10 best teams in the country. I just don't know how high they are because, like, look at the 2 teams they played in the playoff. They played SMU, who probably was the worst of the 12 teams in the field. I know we can quibble with them in Clemson, but I think by the end of the year, Clemson actually was a better fit for the playoff than SMU. And they played Boise State, who is, a very good football team, a legitimate top 15 team, but a non-power conference team still nonetheless. So we'll find out more about Penn State in the Orange Bowl. They'll play that game and get the winner of the Sugar Bowl later tonight. But again, for a team that's played 15 games, I still don't know what they exactly are, which is almost impossible to be said about a college football team.
I'm with you, though. I mean, and I think that regardless if it's Notre Dame or Georgia, I think it's a bad matchup for Penn State, but we'll see. I mean, I can't get out of my mind that game against Ohio State where they really were outmatched against the Buckeyes. But then in the Big Ten Conference Championship, they went toe-to-toe with the Oregon Ducks, and it was a very high-scoring offensive game between those two. So it is a little bit perplexing, but we'll see. I am excited to get the results today to see who they will be facing.
Again, the 2 losses, Oregon, Ohio State, combined 15 points in those 2 losses. So they played the 2 teams that I think are the 2 best teams in the country that are playing each other, of course, naturally in the quarterfinals because, of course, within the score each time. So, again, Penn State will be an underdog more likely than not, barring injury against either Notre Dame or Georgia in the Orange Bowl. All right, let's get to today. Let's start in Atlanta. The Peach Bowl. In Georgia, between Texas and Arizona State. So we got back to 14 earlier this morning here at the South Point, Alex White, and that one you definitely couldn't blink because it went right back to the 13.5. So this has been a mover all 10 days. Open 14, down to 12.5 here at the South Point. There's even some 12 in the market. Now back up the ladder to 13.5, 14, now 13.5 at the moment with the 5-seed Horns laying it against the Big 12 champion Arizona State Sun Devils. Boy, what a weird sentence that still is to say, even though that's obviously the case. Total of 52 here, Alex. This total, we were talking about it before the show, before we get to the side. This total is probably the most complicated of all the handicaps here of the 8 side and totals in these 4 quarterfinals.
It is, especially because we know Arizona State does want to play up tempo, so that could lead to an over. But I mean, this Texas defense is really good. I jumped in, I took the points here. I actually got the 13.5. I was feeling real good the last few days when that number was sitting at 12 and 12.5. Might be some of the public coming in now, what they saw last, Penn State covering, jumping in here on the favorite. But Arizona State, they're 11-2 against the spread this year. They're 31st in yards per game. They're averaging 423. That Iowa State team is a very good team, and we just saw them even in a bowl game beat Miami, and they had 464 yards in that game against the Cyclones. Run percentage, 60%. That is top 20. They're 23rd in rushing yards. Of course, we know about Cam Scatabo. I think they'll lean on him, and that's going to be the whole key, right? Can they get their run game going to open up their offense? But Sam Leavitt, quarterback, has been very good as well. Looking at his median numbers, road and neutral games, 279 yards per game, 9.3 yards per attempt. So I'm taking the points here. This is my dog between these 4 games. This is the dog I like the most.
So 14, and this would be an absolute number take on Arizona State. the biggest concern in this game, more so than anything, and you mentioned it, how will Arizona State's offensive line hold up against that Texas defensive front, which to me is the best defensive line in the entire country? And when you are built the way Arizona State is built, where you said it, they want to play, they're kind of an oxymoron, right? Where they are a run-first team that wants to play quickly.
Yep.
That usually doesn't go hand in hand,
right?
But that's what Arizona State is. You and Kenny have talked about this all year. They were one of the highest tempo teams in the entire country this year. Arizona State. Scatterbo is awesome. If people watching this show know how good Cam Scatterbo is, but you're in a scenario here where this is the best defense that Arizona State has seen all year. The second best defense they've seen this year was BYU. And for me to say something nice about this BYU team, and we know it does not come very often, but their defense, we've talked about, we know how good their defense is. Scatterbo carried the ball 28 times in that game. Remember that was the Bizarro game where Kenny Dillingham and company mismanaged the clock, where BYU almost got a Hail Mary attempt at the end. The Arizona State won by 5, and that was the reason they made the Big 12 title game. Scatterbo 28 for 147 and 3 touchdowns in that game. So he's very effective. Not a huge yard per carry number, but 5.2 would still be more than good enough here today. The biggest difference, though, if we're going against high-end elite defense or high-end defenses, Arizona State in that game, Sam Levitt completed 16 passes, for 247 yards. More than half of the receiving yards and more than half of the receptions went to Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson, 9 for 125. We won't see Jordan Tyson in this game. Of course, he had surgery. Arizona State hopes that if they somehow make a magical run to the title game, that he would be able to play in Atlanta. Again, it would be 2 games in Atlanta for the winner of this game if they happen to get to the final. But that kind of just tells you they're so reliant on their stars. It didn't matter against Iowa State. It's going to matter here today that Jordan Tyson is not there. So I'm very concerned about that. 14, it's a number take. Total, if you made me play it, I think I'd lean to the under. But if you told me this game was 47-31, wouldn't stun me. Hard handicap on that total, Alex.
Well, and that's the other thing, and I know you guys talked about it last week, but this is one game where I really do trust Dillingham to throw out everything he can.
Kitchen sink game. That
makes me a little bit nervous jumping in on the under as well, even though I do think majority, and we'll get to a game later that I really like the under, but, these playoff style games, and we saw it last night, the under did cash there. But another thing, I am a Quinn Ewers fan, and I don't like all the bashing on him, but really when you do look at his numbers and his medians numbers on the road or in neutral games, completing 65% of his passes, 232, 6.8 yards per attempt, and 2 passing touchdowns and 1 INT. So there could be mistakes on the Texas side as well offensively. So I think the dog's the right side here, and there were some 14s earlier, so if you want to grab the 14, I don't blame you. I wouldn't buy up for it. I think Texas could win this one by 7 or 10.
I'd love to see Arizona. I'd love to see an underdog cover one of these games, please. Like just one time. Oh, not just one time, but at least let's get one time before we can get multiple times here in this college football playoff. Again, 13.5, 52. I just throwing some, Alex, I'm throwing some props at you real quick because these are one of the few games where you kind of can go ahead and do it. Scatterbo, I should say, you look at the, why is it, my laptop's claiming I'm in Louisiana, which is very interesting, Alex. So we're going to have to go to the old cellular device here to pull up those numbers yet again. But, for Scatterbo here, what's the number that you think he has to get to if Arizona State's staying in this game? Does he have to get, his rushing total is 104.5 yards at BetMGM. Does he have to exceed that by 20 plus, 30 plus? If he goes under, I think Arizona State has next to no chance in this game. But what's that magic number for Cam Scatabo to have to get to today for Arizona State to realistically stay in this game?
What'd you say that the number was?
104.5 is the number at MGM.
I think he can get there. And I don't think it has to be 20 over that. I think that they can hang around in that if he gets to like 110. I mean, looking at some of his games, and if you're looking at the past ones, I mean, he had 170 in that Iowa State game, 177 against Arizona, 147 against BYU, and you were talking about that being the second best defense. So, but then right there, Kansas State 73. I don't know. Seems
low for what it is. I will tell you, Quinn Ewers. Passing touchdowns, 1.5 over -150. Levitt is -225 to throw a singular passing touchdown here today. If you're interested on that, and BetMGM. I want to know why my laptop thinks I'm in Louisiana. I'm very confused by that, Alex. That doesn't make much sense at all on that. All right,
Genty did get to 104 yesterday. Wow, was I wrong on Drew Aller, huh? I had under 1.5 passing touchdowns. He did have 3. I thought we'd have more rushing, and that one Singleton to get there.
Well, Tyler Warren made 2 of the better catches you're going to see all year for touchdowns. Yes, and again, credit, boy, whichever good team drafts Tyler Warren in the first round of the NFL draft, boy, that's going to be another fun piece for a lot of those good offenses that are there in the NFL. 13.5 here with Arizona State in this one against Texas, total 52 in Atlanta. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we'll go to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl, Oregon, Ohio State, the 2 best teams in the country, considered by a lot of people here in Vegas. We'll discuss it next. Sports by the Book here on New Year's Day. Happy 2025, everyone.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu. Plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here on New Year's Day. Happy 2025. By the way, Alex, I'll just throw this out there. No one loves their illegal fireworks more than people in this city. No one in the country. Maybe L.A. I'll give L.A. that. But I think they were going off until about 2 in the morning by us here in Vegas. But
it's very true.
Hey, nothing compared to 4th of July. 4th of July is it's not a fun day for the puppies that are around town, to say the very least. All right. Let's look real quick. By the way, Vinny Magliulo will be joining us in 15 minutes. Vinny Magliulo will be joining us in 15 minutes, so we can plan on that officially. Just texted us, Alex, so we will see him in 15 minutes. All right, Rose Bowl. This is, Alex, just an unbelievable matchup on paper in the quarterfinals of this tournament, where Oregon's the only undefeated team in college football. Ohio State, if the Buckeyes had not blown that game to Michigan, this would have been the matchup in the Big Ten title game. And then more realistically than not, this would have been the rematch in one round from now. Because I would imagine that the committee would have had the winner of the Big Ten title game be the 1 seed and the loser be the 5 seed in that scenario. Instead, the Buckeyes blew that game to Michigan, fell all the way to number 8, which I still think was ridiculous, but that's a different discussion for a different time. And the 8-seeded Buckeyes are 2.5-point favorites against the Ducks. First matchup between these two teams, Ohio State closed the shallow list of favorites, 1.5. Even pick was in the market at the end of that game in Odson back on October the 12th. And did that game deliver 32-31. Oregon won. And both quarterbacks in that game were both excellent, Alex.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with the total.
Please.
Talking about both quarterbacks being excellent in that game. I love the over, and I know that this is going to be a very public and popular pick here, and I know Ohio State's defense is one of the top in the country, and Oregon, I mean, we saw them against Penn State even give up quite a few yards, and I think we can get there again. I think it's going to be back and forth. I think both defenses will get a couple stops, but ultimately these offenses are two of the best in the country. So over 55 is my best bet in this game. I have not bet on the side just yet, but you talked about both of these teams being two of the top in the country, and Ohio State is my number 1, though. So I'm leaning to the Buckeyes in this one. I might jump in on the money line, see if I can get a better price, but minus 140 will probably be the play for me. Revenge spot. Ultimately, I do think they are the most talented roster in college football, so that's the way I'm leaning, but over is my big play.
I like the over. So it's fun with this real quick. 53.5 to 55.5 behind us. There's a bunch of 56 that just populated as well. So first matchup between these teams. 63 points was basically the lowest possible number that could have been achieved in that game, if you look at the numbers. I mean, both teams are at 7 yards per play. You don't see that almost ever, especially when you have the high-end teams. You just don't see that. Oregon was at 7.6. Ohio State was technically at 6.9, so but 7. There was only one turnover in the game. Ohio State had that fumble that really, even more so than the botching of the clock at the end by Howard, that was really the difference, more so than anything, that fumble. This, Alex, I'm with you on the total. And I don't love the fact that I might have to lay a bad number on the total. But as long as you can get in before it hits 56, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there betting, you better come to the South Point or up to the Rampart now, because that 55.5 here probably not going to be here much longer, because it's all 56 except for one other national book right now. I would say anything lower than 56, you can go with it. I mean, not going to have a tie either. 56, 28, you win automatically on that. Wouldn't shock me. We need Vinny here. Two-way action. This is just a price take more so than anything. You're giving me where I think on a neutral, I think this number, no problem with this number, 2.5. They open 1.5, got bet up. No problem with that. But you're giving me plus money on Oregon, where, yes, this may be the square way of thinking of things here, but I'm taking in a matchup where I think these teams are pretty darn close. I give Ohio State a slight edge on defense over Oregon. But I give Dylan Gabriel a big enough edge over Will Howard that I think that tilts the scales more than enough to justify, especially if we hit 3, it's an auto on Oregon. But plus 125, plus 120, I'll take the better quarterback in this game in Gabriel. And look, for Howard, when Howard's played mistake-free football, Ohio State has been very difficult, almost impossible to beat. part of the reason that Michigan game went haywire was the turnovers in that game from Howard. He threw 2 really bad interceptions that led directly to Michigan points. And that was the difference in the ball game. And obviously, after what we saw from Michigan yesterday, maybe Michigan actually was not as bad as they showed during the regular season. And Alabama, hypothetically, much better than actual Alabama, but that's a different discussion for a different time. I like the Ducks because of the better quarterback play. That's what it comes down to. And I have one prop in this game, at least at the moment. And I'm a little bit floored of why this is the case. And this was the same deal in the Big Ten title game against Penn State. Dylan Gabriel's passing touchdowns is only 1.5. And in a game that you and I both like the over, this is nice. Forget that it's just good correlation. You look at Dylan Gabriel this year, okay? Dylan Gabriel, who, by the way, has been even better than I would have thought he was going to be at Oregon. I thought he was just a stat compiler at Oklahoma, but he's been everything that Oregon could have asked for this year. You take out you look at the year for Oregon. Dylan Gabriel went under 1.5 passing touchdowns twice in 13 games. The only 2 games were the mess in Madison where they had to really fight to come back in that game. They won by a field goal. And then the other one was Michigan. He threw 1. Every other game this year, he's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes. You give me 1.5 minus 125 on the over? Giving me that? That's what BetMGM's giving me right now. I think that's a no-brainer. And if it loses, so be it. You just look at the numbers, and even the last time against the Buckeyes, he threw 2. He also threw for 341 yards that first time, Alex. So you're going to be looking at yardage totals as well for Gabriel. Let me just double check because the numbers do change pretty quickly as we get closer to kick. Gabriel's passing yardage is 248.5.
Well,
I'd be a little more tepid on that, but I like the passing touchdowns a lot more.
And Sean just had up this graphic, but I did the medians for people. So if they want to look at this and take a look at the props, but I even did the median attempts and completion, and then the yards. This is all neutral or road games. So looking at that touchdown to interception ratio for Dylan Gabriel, Jeff, I like it. 2 is his median on the road for passing touchdowns. So I don't fault you at all for going over 1.5 in that one.
Yeah, Will Howard's also 1.5 as well. But it really does feel like to me that if you're, it's so weird to say because both of these offenses can beat you any which way they want to in that game. If I'm Ohio State, I'm almost trying to limit possessions in this game. As weird as that sounds, because we just saw them just basically run Tennessee back across the border into the state of Tennessee in that game in the round of 12. But I almost want to see Ohio State, and this would be the only concern for our over. Right. I really want to see Ohio State really establish the run, for lack of a better phrase. Again, I really do think if Howard can be close to even with Gabriel, especially in the turnover market, Ohio State wins. If Will Howard has that one back-breaking turnover, then that's how Oregon wins this game. And I would bet also that Howard to throw a pick as well. Find your right pricing on that one, Alex.
I do like the fact that the Buckeyes have a game under their belt, though, and kind of getting in that rhythm. So got that bad taste out of their mouth losing to Michigan. And like you just mentioned, I think Tennessee might have been the most disappointing team from that first round, and Ohio State just handled business there. I think it was more about Ohio State than Tennessee, though. So, yeah, I do like the Buckeyes in this one.
It's interesting. It's interesting with Tennessee going back to it again. Like the SEC just wasn't as good as it usually is this year. I think it's just as simple as that now. And for the Big Ten, where again, I don't want to overreact the bowl season because it's so like, I mean, we know how ridiculous it is at this point. But yesterday was a great day for the Big Ten.
Yes, it was.
I mean, Michigan is basically a 17-point underdog, upsets Bama. Illinois, who a lot of people consider, me included, considered a luck box. They beat South Carolina, who I thought was actually the most worthy of the 3 SEC teams left out of the college football playoff. And South Carolina played most of their guys in the bowl game yesterday. Their only loss yesterday was Washington lost to Louisville by a point in what was actually a really fun game in the Sun Bowl. And, of course, Penn State advancing to the semifinals. I'm sure the Big Ten would have loved Ohio State to be somewhere else so that they could have legitimately get 3 of the final 4, which, honestly, Oregon against any other team left, I'd like them against Gunnar Stockton in Georgia. I'd like them against Notre Dame in this spot, especially up the rest with Notre Dame defensive injuries as a potential issue. And I definitely would have liked them in a redux against Penn State. So, again, the only team that they should be underdogs against in this game right now. Just crazy with this format. And they're going to fix the format next year. I feel pretty confident that it's going to be, hey, we'll keep giving the auto bids. We'll keep giving the auto bids. The 5, but we're not going to give them the automatic bye if they win the conference championship. I don't think that's going to happen moving forward. And quite honestly, with the way this year worked out, could be an aberration year, but probably works for the best if that ends up being the case. This is ridiculous that the 2 best power-rated teams in the country are playing in the quarterfinals. All right, let's take one more break, or another break, I should say. When we get back, Vinny Magliulo will join us. We'll get the behind-the-book perspective on these 3 games here today and more when we get back. Sports by the Book.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day. Plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book here on New Year's Day. Happy to be with you as always. Jeff Parles, Alex White's in the middle of your screen, and on the opposite side of me on the screen, our good friend, the one and only. The hair is still good in 2025.
Listen,
Vinny Magliulo.
I believe in consistency. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Vinny. How
Alex,
are you?
Jeff, crew, everybody in the chat, everybody watching, and to everyone out there.
Vinny, make it to midnight last night?
Yeah. I still do the East Coast 9 o'clock thing, just, because of family and relatives.
Sure.
But then take a little nap and then get up at about 8:45.
I will tell you, I don't know why. I don't know if I'm just more conscious of it now. All the television stuff's like 20 seconds behind. You look at your iPhone, it goes right to 9 o'clock, and then it's like, oh, the ball hasn't dropped. Wait a second, what's going on here?
Yeah, the delay, the TV delay. There's more of a TV delay than on some of the streaming signals.
Yeah, I'm 100% on that. So, all right, let's, Vinny, let's go to the 2 games we've talked about already. We haven't talked about the Sugar Bowl.
Okay.
We'll get to that third here. Texas and Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
This is don't blink day, isn't it? With these,
Well,
at least these first 2 games, at least.
Yeah, for sure, right? And in fact, I was just talking with Chris Andrews in the back, and a lot of action. In fact, if you look at the Texas Arizona State money line, Chris put that up, moved that up pretty good. Now it's up to 6.25. So no question, it's no mystery. We're going to need Arizona State in this game. I mean, ideally, if there's a way they could win the game outright, this will probably be the toughest defense that they've faced all year. But 13.5 right now. I mean, it opened 14, right? So again, whenever 14 was seen, it was taken. That's again. Just we've seen a lot of this. A lot of folks refer to it as pros versus Joes, professional bettors versus casual bettors, and especially again after last night, what we've seen so far in the playoff and college football playoffs in particular, the public likes what they see in terms of the favorites, and so they're inclined to bet the favorites, and they're inclined to bet the over too, even though last night's game wound up going under. So, you're going to see favorites taken by the pros, and in the key numbers like a 14. And when we get to the Oregon game, which, as we talked about the other day, when it hits 3, don't blink. I mean, it's a quicker blink than you would normally. It's not even a wink, So it doesn't even last. So, but that's what's happened in that game. But right now, sitting at 13.5. And the total at 52 on Texas, Arizona State. Getting to the next game, Ohio State, Oregon. Like I said, Chris went to 3 this morning because they started to lay Ohio State. And now it's sitting at 2.5. And 55.5 went to 56 within a couple of seconds here, a couple of minutes. And then actually some Notre Dame money has shown in the last day and a half. That game now sitting at pick and 45.5. But that game will be impacted certainly by carryover, just like we see carryover on the primetime games on Sunday night in the NFL and Monday night, of course. There'll be carryover to that game. So we did get as high as 1.5 earlier in the week. They took the 1.5, they took the 1, and now down to pick. So support for Notre Dame so far. I
want to ask you about last night's game. Was Boise a pretty popular dog, or did Sharps like the points with the Broncos? Good
question, Alex, because we closed it. Well, actually, there was most of the week and most of the time when we put the game up, and it opened 10, right? And it got up to 11, then it started to, you saw more Penn State money coming in, 12.5, closed the game 12. So they took the 12.5. I think some pros were waiting for 13.
Okay.
But they didn't have to. Didn't see it. But some late money on Boise there. That game has certainly started some carry over, even though it was an overall good result. The reason it was a better result for the house and not too detrimental was because it stayed under.
Right.
So, but there was, it was definitely. I mean, the game closed 55, the total, so it was up 3 points from the opener. So the under did help.
This is again, Vinny, the first go around of these 4 quarterfinal games, coupled with yesterday, which was quite honestly a totally wacko bowl slate yesterday.
Boy, yeah.
I mean, you have Michigan. You have Michigan as almost a 17-point dog win outright. You have Illinois as a double-digit dog win outright. You have Washington and Louisville was an awesome game. I mean, it's just
back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, the non-playoff games, this has been as good of a bowl season as I can remember. Well, and the playoff games have been favorite so far.
Well, I think when you see in the bowl games, right, you're still trying to determine who's playing and what the incentives are. And, as players' names are continuously get put into the transfer portal, and, Team A has 20 players into the transfer portal, but, oh, by the way, they brought in 25 players from the transfer portal already. I mean, the transfer portal has been extremely active. and impactful on the bowl games, right? So again, the numbers move quickly, and certainly you have to book them differently than these playoff games. I mean, just the limits alone. All right. I mean, look at these bowl games. We're booking them like NFL playoff games, and we've talked about that at length. The bowl games. Listen, we're just trying to determine who's playing and who's not, who's going to play for maybe part of the game and who isn't. And so, as a bettor, I think if you're playing the bowl games, your in game is really there's lots of opportunities in game. Right, because but you have to watch what's happening and listen to what's happening to get a feel for who's going to be in and who's not and for how long. I mean, Colorado's a great example, right, where everybody played for the entire game, right, which I think was a surprise to some folks. I mean, we knew that the starters would be in there for the first half, but here they are, coming in for the second half. And again, no lead is safe either, right?
Nope.
When you look at it, how many double-digit leads have not only been overcome, but then the team that had was behind by double digits came back and won the game outright. So again, really, there's opportunities with the bowl games for the in game, and we've got to be very mindful of that too on our side.
Vinny, before we let you go, you mentioned the Notre Dame-Georgia game. Alex and I will break that down next, but this has been, of all these games, Ohio State and Oregon is arguably the two best teams in the country playing in the quarterfinals. Texas is Texas. But this is one of the most fascinating games I can ever remember for a college, especially a college football playoff game, because we have a kid making his first career start in the Sugar Bowl with everything on the line here in Gunner Stockton. Again, the market, and it's funny, you guys are actually one of the few remaining picks in the market. A lot of places have gone to Notre Dame as a 1-point favorite.
Probably wouldn't be shocked if they close
this morning, but it is such an interesting dynamic here where when we had Chris Felica on last week, it's like, these teams play a pretty similar style. Georgia's more talent on defense. Why are people betting Notre Dame? And on the flip side of this, hey, we got this kid who's legitimately making his first career start in a college football playoff game against a defense that I think everyone on this desk respects as a top 5 to 8 defense in the country at this point.
Right. And again, for the opportunity to go to the national semifinals, right?
Yeah.
Right to the Final Four. So, I think, there's a school of thought also that Notre Dame has certainly not seen a defense like this. Georgia's offense is not the same as it's been in recent years, primarily as we've discussed about due to the receiving core that graduated last year and now plays in the NFL. So, but listen, Kirby Smart, good coach. Both these teams well coached. I think we're going to continue to see overall two-way action, but again, the carryover is really going to determine that. But the fact that Notre Dame's gone to a 1-point favorite doesn't shock me because we've seen support for Notre Dame in the futures, even right when once the 12-team field was announced. So the other part of it is, I know that when we had Chris Felica on last week, we talked about the total in this game, and I mentioned that if you liked it under, I think Chris likes it under, right? Both teams trying to run the ball, and the quarterbacks are very mobile, right? So you anticipate more of a running game, but the total continues to go up. So if you like it under, you may want to wait a little bit longer. The other day, Jeff, when we talked about it, I know you liked the game under, it was 45. Here we are at 45.5. So you may see it, will we see a 46? More likely to see a 46 than a 45 again, right? So if you like it under, you can probably afford to wait a little bit. But if you like Notre Dame, then our price at pick is good right now. So because again, you're seeing some Notre Dame money show where they're the favorite.
Vinny, we'll let you go back to work.
Back to work.
Thank you very much.
And again, our prayers go out to the folks in New Orleans. But Happy New Year. Here's to the best for everyone. And You guys and girls continue to do a great job here in the studio. Keep it up. Happy 25.
Happy 25. Vinny Magliulo, everyone. All right. Let's get into the Sugar Bowl. As Vinny mentioned, our thoughts with everyone impacted by the terrorist attack in New Orleans earlier this morning. As of now, this game is being played on schedule. If anything changes with that while we're still on the air, we'll let you know. But as of now, this is still going as scheduled tonight. Just about 9 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Central time down there in New Orleans. And Alex, as I said to Vinny, this is the most intriguing game, as great as Ohio State, Oregon is. Two best teams in the country. This is the most fascinating game from so many different perspectives because we have almost a complete unknown at quarterback for the number 2 team in the country going in this game. We saw Gunnar Stockton in the second half against Texas. Of course, Carson Beck's season is over. Carson Beck's college career is over as well. He declared for the NFL draft, which, good luck. I'll just say that. But for Carson Beck, look, Alex, it's just a matter of at this point, like, what do we think we're going to see? We saw a guy who did not seem against a high-end defense, did not seem intimidated, was not afraid of the moment in the SEC title game. But now you're going up against another top-flight defense who's had 10 days plus to prepare for you. So it's a whole different ball game than coming in midstream when a team's not prepared for you as opposed to a team being prepared for you here today.
It's a very tough handicap because on one side, I do think Georgia is a little bit overrated. And if you look at their numbers, they're not great. I mean, they're 43rd in total yards per game, and that is with Carson Beck all season. They're 36 on defense in total yards allowed, 50th in passing yards allowed. So a little bit overrated, but on the flip side, it's Kirby Smart, and he has proven with extra time that he can be prepared and have Gunnar Stockton prepared in this game. But I lean to Notre Dame. But I am with you, and I heard you say it last week. I like the under. I think that's the best play in this one. If you look at Notre Dame, I do think they are a top defense. Even though they have had an easy schedule, they're 3rd in points allowed. And then if you look at their offense, they're very good there as well. But I think that plays more into the defense that they faced all year long. So I think it'll be a battle. I think Georgia's defense kept them in that SEC championship game, and I think they'll have to do that again here today.
So I think first off, even though this total is lowest one of the playoff so far, forget just this round of the whole playoff, at 45.5 here at the South Point, and it's been bet up. I'm kind of rooting for these earlier games to be like wacko over games, so people just keep blindly betting this total up so I can come under in this game. Remember the SEC title game, Alex, where that game took an overtime and still did not get there against Texas on the total. Still didn't get there. And you're in a scenario here where I think if Georgia's going to win this game, they're going to have to hold Notre Dame completely down. And I kind of think it's the same deal for Notre Dame where, look, the second half against the Gunnar Stockton part of the game for Texas, Georgia. Remember, that was 6-3 at halftime, that game. Second half plus overtime was 23 plus 9, which is 32. So the Gunnar Stockton portion of the game did play more over. Again, I think that had more to do with the fact that Texas was so locked in on Beck and what he does that, again, it's hard to adjust to a completely different style quarterback, especially when Stockton, other than the interception, which was bad, didn't look completely in over his head, which, again, I wonder if that happens to be the case today, where, again, this is a top flight. This is the best Notre Dame defense I again, wasn't alive when they were winning the championships with Holtz and company, but they are the best Notre Dame defense that I can remember. They're better than the team with Manti Te'o that went to the national title game. This is a more complete, faster overall defense that should be able to compete with an SEC-style team. And I agree with you. Georgia's, it's so weird to say. They won the SEC championship against one of the most ridiculously brutal schedules you're ever going to see. And I agree with you. They are overvalued still. I think they are still overrated, even with the adjustments for going from Beck to Stockton. The other thing I want to ask you, though, what happens if Gunnar Stockton ends up being better than the version of Carson Beck we saw this year, which I don't think is an impossible thing, Alex, with how Beck played this season.
I don't either. We talked about it all year, too, especially the bad decisions and the interceptions that Carson Beck was throwing throughout the year. But that brings up another good point when you talk about Notre Dame's defense and you talked about them being the fastest, best. I think they're going to get it done here today, and I think they have to. I think that is why you saw so much money on the futures for Notre Dame. They have a nice little path here, and they need to take advantage of Georgia going to their second-string quarterback. So I do. The more we talk about it, too, I do like the Notre Dame side.
So just, again, one quick clarification. For Notre Dame-related defenses, I'm saying this. I think Texas is the best defense in the country, personally.
Yes.
Yeah. But for this match, again, the only argument, and Felica said this last week, and I do kind of get it, where teams play similar style, which they do. When they're at their best, it's because their quarterbacks are able to, well, now with Stockton in, their quarterbacks are able to move with their legs. You have two high-end defenses where Georgia's talent is better than Notre Dame's talent. But I still think I think this is a big enough advantage for Riley Leonard, plus Notre Dame's defense under in the Irish. Notre Dame takes on Penn State, and I'll be fascinated, regardless of what happens in this game, how the Penn State winner of this game, Orange Bowl, is lined up. Because I want to go against Penn State in the semis, regardless of who wins this game. Especially, I mean, if Georgia beats this team, especially if Georgia looks in command in this game and wins by 2 touchdowns, boy, we got to look at Georgia a little bit differently, because maybe Gunnar Stockton actually can be even of what Beck was this year, and that might be good enough, even with the issues that Georgia has seemingly had through the year. Oh, did we just move to a Notre Dame favorite here, Sean? Thank you very much. Notre Dame's officially favored here. And that total went to 46. That's actually more important for me because I'm already in on the Irish at a plus number earlier in the week, Alex. So keep going up, total. Keep going up. Keep going up. Love to see 47. I don't think there's a shot in heck of seeing that, but that would be awesome if we saw 47. Because then somehow if we got 27-20, we're pushing at that point.
I am a little surprised. I mean, I even rewatched some of that Indiana-Notre Dame game. It was on TV the other night, and I mean, Notre Dame even struggled a little bit against Indiana's defense. I don't think this game is getting over 46.
All right, Alex, let's real quick for the non-football portion of the show, just throwing 2 college bets at you real quick here today on the college hoop side. By the way, Ryan, you looked this up. There are so many college basketball games tomorrow, which is super abnormal for a Thursday, but because of the holiday, it definitely changed things up here today. So looking at these games here today, let's start in the college hoops end of things. Let's start with Pitt and Cal. I have 2 ACC games that I like here today. Cal, who has dealt with injuries, going on the road again. This is going to be a very weird thing to look at here with how Cal and Stanford doing these road games when they're traveling cross country all the time, which they're going to have to moving forward. You can get up to 14.5 now. Take the best number you can find on Cal. As much as this Pitt team profiles as a legit top 20 team, legit NCAA tournament team, this feels like too many points. The one concern in this game is that Cal's defense is brutal, and if they don't show, this could end up being a mess here. It's almost correlated. I don't want to say it's correlated because Cal, this game could still be played in the 170s, and Cal covers easily. But that is the one concern, that Cal's defense lets them down. But we'll take 14.5. And then the other game, we're taking North Carolina as an underdog at Louisville.
Big game.
Big game for really both teams. UNC is... It's odd to say, but they've been one of the biggest underachievers in college basketball so far this year. Louisville dealing with injury. The last time, and I think the number kind of plays like this because of this, Louisville was unbelievably lucky to beat the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky the last time they played. They only won by 2. They probably should have lost the game. So I wonder if there's a bounce back factor built into this line a little bit. But I like North Carolina plus money. They're the more talented team. It is a difficult place to play. But we'll take North Carolina plus 105 on the money line here, Alex.
I don't mind it at all. I do think they are the better team. They've struggled a little bit defensively, but their offense has been very good. So I would almost look to the over with these two as well.
Wouldn't mind that one bit if you wanted to go that way. All right. Real quick on the NFL, let's some NFL before we get out of here. We don't have any NBA play, so apologies on that. Ryan is allowed to smack me in the head if I have any of those anyway.
And there's only one hockey game today, so.
Yeah, all the games were obviously Winter Classic yesterday at Wrigley. Unbelievable scene for that.
Yep. Very high scoring.
Yep.
It was unexpected.
Yep. And then legitimately every other game basically got played at the same time, and there were a few that were an hour after that, but everything basically all at the same time yesterday. NFL-wise, just want to make sure everyone's up to date on all the scenarios, more so than anything. Ravens, the bettors bet the Browns.
They're taking the 17?
They're up to it's from 18 to 17 and a half now. Cleveland and Baltimore. If the Ravens win is the biggest favorite of the NFL season, they get the 3 seed in the AFC playoffs. The Steelers and the Bengals, which right now is Cincinnati 1.5 on the road at Pittsburgh. A lot of people just missing the fact that this is not a meaningless game for Pittsburgh. The Steelers lose and the Chargers beat the Raiders, where I would imagine that if the Chargers are playing for seeding, Harbaugh's going to go full throttle, and he should, because the difference between playing at Houston and at Baltimore is gigantic. You go from a touchdown underdog to a road favorite, depending on who the opponent is. So there's the bracket right now. Broncos currently sitting in that 7 slot, needing a win against the Kansas City Chiefs backups. The Bengals and Dolphins both need help. Miami needs to win against the Jets. The Broncos need to lose. The Bengals need to win, and both Miami and Denver need to lose. Again, we're not certain on the status of Tua Tagovailoa yet either for Sunday for the Dolphins. Didn't matter against Cleveland because Cleveland's offense with DTR is unbelievably inept at this rate. But there you go, Alex. That's what we got in the AFC side. The NFC side, we know the 7 seeds. It's just 7 teams. It's just a matter of how they get seeded at this rate.
That game right there is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. So meaningful for both of these teams. And the Steelers, coming off a 3-game losing streak here, they really need to get it together before going into the playoffs. And then the Bengals, it would be wild, but not that surprising if they find a way to sneak into the playoffs.
Cincinnati gets there. Cincinnati, you get a nice price if you want to get them to just win this week, get into the postseason, because Denver's 10.5, 11 right now against the Chiefs backups. I'm going to have some sort of money line flyer on Kansas City in that game. I don't think Denver actually loses, but you're going to be giving me almost $5 on the Chiefs backups. There are only so many guys they can sit.
Right.
so that'll be an interesting one to say the very least. Alex, before we get out of here, because Kenny White has this morning show the next 2 days. He has tomorrow morning and Friday morning. You're off the next 2 days. You get your weekend is Thursday, Friday through football season. There's no football frenzy tomorrow, by the way. Ryan and I have the Thursday off from football frenzy. I'll be back on Friday with Chris and Vinny on Football Frenzy. But anything in the NFL standing out to you right now that needs to be played at the current moment here?
I need to take a look at my numbers here.
While you're efforting that, I will tell you right now, I would lay the lumber with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know it's a ridiculous amount of points for an NFL game at 13, but it went down from 14.5. I get the number take on the New Orleans side, but I think this is a Tampa route now that offense has fully figured themselves out completely. And even if that defense stinks it up, New Orleans is not capable of hanging in a high-scoring game with that offense right now.
No, and Carolina was one of the most competent teams down the stretch here who wasn't actually tanking. They were still playing really hard, and we saw what Tampa Bay just did to them. The Saints are a mess without Derek Carr and Kamara, so I don't mind it at all. I made that one 15, so kind of close. But Tampa Bay just has to win, right?
Tampa just has to win in any fashion in order to get there. But I mean, they could also be up 28-7 in this game pretty quickly, especially if New Orleans looks like the way they did last week against the all of a sudden red hot Las Vegas Raiders, Alex.
Yes, 2 in a row for the Raiders. And now they get the Chargers here, which the last time we saw those two play each other here in Allegiant, that is when the Raiders ran up the score on the Chargers. So
yep,
we'll see what happens there. Green Bay, this is a meaningless game for them, right? They're locked into their spot. Packers.
Green Bay is so a little convoluted.
Okay.
Green Bay wins, Washington loses, Green Bay goes to 6. Washington wins, doesn't matter for Green Bay. Right now, actually, that is flipped actually right on our screen right now. Washington holds the 6 at the current moment against the Packers because of their win on Sunday night. Flipping from what it was previously, which right now, Philadelphia play the Packers right now in round 1. That is a mega duty 2-7 matchup.
Yes.
If that's the case. Eagles are locked. Rams and Bucks can flip. Rams are going to play Jimmy Garoppolo. The Bucks need the game. So we could very easily see the Rams lose, the Bucks win, Tampa would move to the 3. If they end up tied, the Rams would move to the 4 if that ends up happening, which is, I mean, in all honesty, not only are you more likely to get a home game as a 3 seed, but boy, the difference between playing Washington and the loser of the Minnesota-Detroit game seems like a pretty large difference as well. That is, of course, if Washington beats Dallas, which right now the Commanders are 4.5-point favorites to do that. And remember, Dallas beat them earlier in the year.
Yes, they did. That Vikings-Lions game is the game of the weekend. I said that Bengals
of course.
And Steelers game, but yes, really looking forward to this one for the 1 seed and the division between these two. I do think that number is correct, though I don't have a strong play on the side yet.
We'll talk about this on Sunday. But I will tell you, at 3, that feels like a pretty juicy take on Minnesota. And also, too, the highest total of the year was the Detroit-Buffalo game, and that thing went zooming over.
Yep.
Wouldn't shock me one bit if that happens yet again here in this one.
Yep.
All right. That's what we got for you. Happy New Year, everyone. Before we go, though, you got the whiteboard.
Oh, I do. So these are my official plays today on Sports by the Book. So I'm going Arizona State plus 13.5 or better if you can get that 14. I'm going to Ohio State on the money line. And then I'm going under in the Georgia-Notre Dame game. Get the best number that you can. So if you want to wait it out. But I went under 45.5.
All right. There we go. That's all we got for you. Kenny White's back in 24 hours right here on the stream. Happy New Year, everyone. We appreciate all of you out there watching our shows on a daily basis. We hope you win here today, to say the very least.
It's been a
on
good
this big
week.
day. Custer, Bob Custer's in there. Jerry, Minidar again. Just again loves thinks I hate the Broncos. I don't hate them. I do. They're just not that good. Someone named Kyle's in there as well, and our good friend JR at the ballpark, of course, in there to start off your 2025. Sean Ryan, thank you as always. Frank Nicotero's here today, right? He's doing a show at noon. Okay, thank you, Sean. Yeah, Punchlines FN. If you want to watch that at noon. Alex, good luck.
You
We'll
too.
see you again next time right here on Sports by the Book.